How's it going? Welcome to Ruffled Leaks. Today we're going to be taking a look at some recent Pokemon rumors, leaks, and everything in between. Let's get started right off the bat. First things first, I'm going to go through most of the fun stuff that's come out recently and talk about that first. First thing here is new image from the pre-order packaging of the DLC Incorporated pack. This comes to us from Pokisutami, so shout out to them. In the picture, we can see that what appears to be the crystals as well as a structure which has been seen in the trailers. Now confirmed to be called the Terrarium Dome. As you guys can see right here, we have the character just kind of like, running around on their Miraidon in there. Nothing too crazy. And then, of course, the dome up in the corner right there. So again, nothing too crazy from this image. It was in the trailer as well. This exact image was in the trailer as well. So again, nothing too crazy. Nothing too much to dissect here. And here's, of course, the post. It originally came from Poke Rapid Info, which I think is a Japanese like Twitter account, so we're gonna give them a follow as well. But yeah, basically posted this, which means, hey, get ready, the DLC should be coming our way very, very soon. Next up, though, we're gonna be jumping over to this post right here from Central Leaks, who says that Dippin's evolution will be a multi-headed dragon. Now, where he gets this info from, I don't know. He just randomly said this the other day. If you guys go down here, you guys can see he actually posted a bunch of random stuff. Well, just recently, I guess. But he specifically came out and said Dippin's evolution will be a multi-headed dragon. Also, one leaker hinted at something with authentic flavor, using the phrase that the Chinese community refers to as a faithful remake a la BDSP. This, of course, comes from all the stuff we talked about Riddler Khu. Now, for those of you guys who do not know who Riddler Khu is, he is a legitimate, actual leaker in the community, and I always have to point this out for people that are new and don't know him, but Riddler Khu is a legit leaker. Central Leaks here, they're an aggregator. They aggregate leaks and just share them to a larger audience. That's pretty much what they are up to, in case you're curious. But I just wanted to point that out and mention it because I think it's worthwhile to bring up. Next up, though, I want to talk about the potential Dippin evolution and what else it could be. So Light here has a theory saying potentially Dippin's evolution will be what Flygon couldn't be, the first bug dragon type we've ever seen. Now, where is this bug dragon typing coming from? Well, it actually comes from a tweet that was right here, where Riddler Khu specifically said which, and there's an icon for grass and then an icon for bug typing. A lot of people were wondering, what's this related to? Of course, it's probably related to something DLC related. If you think about the DLC, what really remains to be shown? Like, what is it that we don't actually know? Because we mostly know everything, okay? We almost know everything there is to know about the DLC, except what that Dippin evolution is going to be like, what Doku Taro, the brand new poison Pokemon, is going to be like, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is pretty much laid out to us. And of course, there's the Entei and potentially the, I guess, Terrakion, special forms or paradox forms, whatever you call them. That's another thing that we don't know much about. But in terms of everything else, we pretty much know it. So Dippin could be what we're looking at right here. Is he trying to tell us that Dippin is going to be a bug dragon instead of a, grass dragon or whatever else it could be, right? Is he maybe hinting at that right here? Because he says which, implying that only one of these would be relevant in this case. So question is, yeah, which one of these would make the most sense? I personally don't know, but we're gonna have to wait and see what actually develops from that. Going back to the actual post here, we can see what he actually says here. Light, who says, also, Dippin learns Infestation by using the Remember moves, a move that holding a Grip Claw traps the opponent for 7 turns, which could imply 7 heads. That being related in this case to a Hydra, which is the funny part, because if you guys remember, Riddler Khu has been putting out these tweets, and we're going to get to those tweets again, but he's been putting out these tweets hinting at multiple numbers of Pokemon, like just number after number. So it's very strange and random that that's being brought up, specifically as that could be hinting at this thing having multiple heads, like many, many heads, similar to a Hydra. Because we already know that living inside of this apple is 2 creatures, not just 1. So keep that in mind. Either way, kind of a cool theory. I think it's pretty interesting. And, we'll see what happens from it if anything is real from it. There's also this really cool concept here from Card NL, who says, what if Appleton gets a convergent species in Scarlet and Violet DLC? It could look like this, based on a pumpkin pie instead of apple pies. And honestly, looks solid. I think it looks pretty freaking clean, but no idea if that's going to be what they're actually going to do, though. Next up, though, we have some theories. So this one starts off in relation to one of the things that was posted by, of course, the Chinese, I guess, auntie, uncle, whatever you want to call them, is this person who's been posting stuff. I don't know if this is the person right here in this post. This could be a little bit unrelated, but this actually relates to something else. So let's go back to this post. This is from 15th of September, saying, huge spoiler update to this. There were 3 new battle states data mined from the Indigo disk yesterday. One is obviously Terapagos, then the Chinese Riddler, who's another 100% accurate leak source. So this is a different person than the one who's been saying stuff recently. It's a different individual. Then the Chinese Riddler, who is another accurate one, posted this on the Chinese social media with thanks to Poki Serena and Jan. Roughly translates to this: Koraidon, Miraidon, Terapagos will have a battle state, similar to the Ogerpon in DLC 1. In other words, in DLC 2, these legendaries will continue to be buffed, which makes sense. If you guys remember, if you look at this original image here, there's actually a moment in the trailer, if you guys watch the trailer, where they specifically seem to mention, oh, your Pokemon might be able to unlock the ability to fly, like fully fly, which I think that's maybe what it has to do with, like, you know, maybe that's like a part of how, what we're going to see here, the unlocking of the true potential of Koraidon, Miraidon, and even Terapagos. So Koraidon, Miraidon are 99% getting new battle states in DLC 2. The big question is, what is a battle state? Well, Ogerpon's Terra Mask forms were officially called special terrestrialized state on the official website. These states work in hand with Ogerpon's abilities, so we can assume the same could be true here for Koraidon, Miraidon, and Terapagos, as they all gain these dual abilities that give them special in-battle only forms similar to Ogerpon's masks. Or, I'm going to disagree here, I'm going to say it could be the other way around, and it unlocks their potential for flying, their ability to actually fly around. Right now, they can just kind of glide around, right? But we've seen in the trailer, there's going to be a mini game. We're gonna fly on Koraidon and Miraidon. Is it then possible that what we're actually getting with these special battle states, which are in the files, by the way, they have been data mined, is it more likely than possible that what we're actually getting is the ability for them to fly? Like the ability for Koraidon and Miraidon to eventually be able to unlock the ability to fly around Paldea. Is that the case? I think it seems possible. It makes sense. They kind of already hinted it in the trailer, so let's see what happens. Either way, we continue on. These could also be very related to Terrastall, so these are only other terraforms other than Ogerpon. Since it's a battle state, is this not the confirmed Terapagos terraform that was officially revealed already, or is this something entirely different? Maybe related to a third Terapagos form. I really hope they're not going to do 3 forms. I already like the 2 that we have. I don't think it's necessary to add in another one. But he continues on and says, if Koraidon and Miraidon really do get Terra battle states in the Indigo disc, what if it's if that's finally what these seemingly unused stones, and yes, these 2 stones you see right here have not been used yet. These 2 items they see right there underneath Koraidon and Miraidon, those are in the files. They've been in there since the release of Scarlet and Violet, but they've never been used. Is it possible that those stones can do one of 2 things? Unlock the potential of Koraidon and Miraidon in terms of, like he says, a battle state, like actually give them a special terrestrialized form or a special form that changes them. Or, like I say, is it possible that's going to unlock their ability to fly around? That's just what I'm wondering. Again, right now, we don't really know. We're going to have to wait and see as as time keeps going. We're just going to have to wait and see what people say. And, we'll have to wait and see what turns out from all this. But let's continue to the next thing, though. Now, this post is specifically to do with Doku Taro. We're going to talk about this in a little bit because there's literally a little too much to say about this at the moment. So let's go to something else first, which is to break down all the things that have been said by Riddler Khu. So, to start things off, for those who do not know him, he's a legitimate leaker. Riddler Khu has leaked things for years now, and he legitimately leaks stuff. Only problem is, he does it in riddles, which makes it impossible for someone to, understand exactly what's going on, unless you're in the deep and thick of this, trying to figure it out. Now, we're going to scroll down pretty far here to begin at the start of this stuff, because then it gives you more context for what we're talking about. So, beginning this riddle series, he basically posted this thing here right here. It's predicting the title in 2 months. Palace or something else. What will the topic be? He says that, and then he says, enjoyed this, it's a new fun series. And then he posts this image, which was, I think if I remember correctly, the Dano QR code from the 3D, the Pokemon, I guess the 3D Pokedex from Black and White. So it was Dano, which has 1 head, right? Then the next post he made, I think was, I could have been, no, this was unrelated. This is original Super related. This is more related to Black and White remakes. But he posted this, which is Doduo, right? Which has 2 heads. So that's 1, 2 heads. We continue on. He then posts the third one, which is Magneton, which is 3 heads. Then he says PPK 289 banner version. That is, I think, in the relationship to Probopass. I could be wrong, but I think it's Probopass, which has 4 heads. We continue on, though. And he says the following as well here, which he posts this image. It says, this is, so that's all for this series. Which one is the most difficult to decode? The answer was posted way before this series began. See you next. Imagining time. How will they show it in game? Hint, 1 by 1. So kind of creepy. which then makes you wonder, okay, what is he talking about? Because this post is just a QR code. Now, if you actually, look at it, now I don't have any way to scan this QR code, but people that scan it get Barbonicle, I guess, or whatever it's called. I forget its actual name. Barbonicle. Anyway, this thing, though, has, I mean, if you think about it, it technically has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 heads, technically. If you count all the faces on its hands, it would be 5, meaning that we would possibly be getting a 5-headed creature in whatever we're going to be getting, like, for this Pokemon. At least that's what it seems like he's hinting. And he says, that's all for this. And basically, he already posted about this way back, and he has been hinting at an evolution for Dippin for a while now. So that could be the case here. That could be what he's trying to hint at, which then leads us into the next set of posts, which get a little bit stranger. So we're going to start off with, we're going to skip the Billy one. This was basically Soul Silver just saying, which quadrupled Paradox Entei would you choose if it was based on any of these, dinosaurs? A case can be made for all 3 of these, but I'd choose for it to be an Ankylosaurus. If I'm being honest, it's most likely going to be the Stegosaurus or Triceratops, because regular Entei already has features that line up with it. And he just said Billy, which I don't even know how to take that. I don't really know, like, how to react to that, but hey, I mean, could be something like this. We'll have to wait and see. I really do wonder though what it's going to look like. Nonetheless, though, again, that post didn't really bring much, context to us. Like, it didn't really do much for us to, learn any new information. So we move on to the next one. Which matches better? We have a bunch of little, like, icons here and a Poochyena. And then, of course, here, the Mightyena Evo Copium begins. And then people are just kind of confused because on one hand, you have, like, it being poisoned, seemingly. At least that's what it looks like. And then, people just kind of try to figure out what's going on. Is it possible that, like, the actual team that Kieran uses, because remember, he literally changed his name to a new low for Kieran. Is it possible that Kieran's going to be poisoning his own Pokemon, like poisoning his whole team, as a way to kind of like, because of the fact that he is in control by the Doku Taro Pokemon. Now, quick context for what the Doku Taro is. Now, Doku Taro, and we're going to talk about it more because there is more stuff here being mentioned about that, but it is a brand new poison-type Pokemon. If you haven't heard about it, then you've probably not seen any of my videos or any other people talking about this, but to explain it for those of you who are new, basically, Doku Taro is a new poison Pokemon that is the poison Pokemon that most likely basically brainwashed, controlled, and changed Kieran to become kind of evil at the end of the Teal Mask DLC, which makes sense. Also, Doku Taro's model can be seen in the moment when Ogerpon is being attacked by the Loyal 3. So basically, we have more or less a confirmation. There's even files in the game that confirm this, and there's a Doku Taro looking like creature, like a poison Pokemon plushie at like the shop in Kitakami. So there's a lot of stuff pointing at it, and we can notice that Kieran basically got taken over by this Pokemon, right? By its poison. It was poisoned, and you can also see on the like chains, if you look down here, like these kind of like, chains that kind of shackle these Pokemon. They're all poison chains, which give them the poison typing. So it is very interesting, and it made them evil too, because if you read their Pokedex entries of Okidogi, Monkey Dory, and Pheasantipede, you will learn that all 3 of them basically were weak, useless Pokemon until they got these crazy boosts in power by basically this Pokemon. It wasn't confirmed it was this Pokemon that did it, but it pretty much is in the subtext. So, what does this relate to Poochyena here? Well, basically, which matches better? Well, he includes 3 different things. I'm not sure what these are references to, I'm sorry, but it could be like a reference of trying to say that like all of them, like his Pokemon, like Poochyena for example, will be shackled in some way or shape. And I'm not sure if he actually uses Poochyena. I cannot recall right now. I know that Carmen uses it, so maybe he's going to do it to Carmen's Pokemon, but I digress. Either way, could it be possible trying to imply that it's going to be shackled? If we look down here and look at what people are saying, those are all icons from Pokemon Masters EX. The left one is trapped, basically binding, that applies when a move like Whirlpool is using a Pokemon. The second one is fear, flinching, that makes the Pokemon with this effect unable to use moves during a few turns. So basically, trapped, flinched, and confusion. That's what these 3 things imply in Pokemon Masters. But he asks what matches better. Well, I don't know if any of them match better because he's poisoned, more or less. He's controlled. So I guess in some way, if we were to choose one of these, it would be trapped. It's trapped. Like, Kieran is trapped by this Pokemon, and this Pokemon itself, Poochyena, is being trapped by this creature as well. That's kind of the way I view it. Then, of course, we have the, again, the typing posts, and this most likely has to do with I would assume Dippin, right? It's got to do with Dippin. Which one is it? Well, it's got to be that, right? It's the only thing that seems to make sense. If it's off base, I don't really know. I really do hope it's not another, like, you know, I do hope it's something else. Again, I don't know if this relates to anything else. If it does, feel free to correct me. If you guys have theories, let me know in the comment section down below. But it is just interesting to see. And also somebody here, a Rowlit Herald, actually says, reminds me of some Poke theorists on Billy. The Applin line cannot be a visual pun on a worm and a worm because it is never explicitly stated in their Japanese name. So their dragon type can only be based on the Oriental dragon. Now it seems that they may get falsely emboldened, which I don't know if that's going to be the case here, but random point to make, but fair enough. Applin without the apple is a worm and a worm, so bug type, which actually true. I guess, yeah, if you were to remove the dragon typing and just use these two, I guess it would make sense, right? A bit strange, but I guess it could work. Hopefully, we lose the grass typing and we get a bug dragon type, because I'm going to be very, 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 very happy with that. Either way, let's move on to the next thing. So, he says, what will he snatch from you this time in Sudachi 2? Sudachi 2 is specifically the second DLC. That's the Indigo disc. By the way, he's fully armed, which is a very specific statement. And I think even, I think that even is a point here by, I think specifically Soul Silver. He made an actual post talking about specifically this, where he says, I'm not going to cover all of Khu's recent tweets because there's so many story spoilers, but in part one, in one part, he said Kieran is fully armed when we meet him again, which you'd naturally think just meant strong Pokemon, but then he left some very interesting response to that ID. Could we actually see some crazy Doku Taro armed version of Kieran similar to Lusamin and Nihilego? And here's what basically that relates to. Kayla Capsule asks, are these arms purple and chain-like perhaps? And then Jan says, I think he just means he got a full team of level 80s. And he says physically full armed. So that means that his literal body might be actually taken over. This is something we've already speculated. Like Pen Paladin says here, I already covered this theory here of how he maybe could be controlled by this creature. And he might be full on just taken over by it. And basically he says physically armed. My boy Kieran about to become the Dr. Octopus. He's the one who knocks. Basically, it seems like whatever he's trying to hint at here is that this fella is going to go nuts, okay? Kieran is going to go full evil on us and get taken over. Similar again to how Nihilego and Lusamin and how all that worked back in Sun and Moon, right? Seems like it's going to go down that path. Again, we are just speculating here, but that seems to be what he is implying with this. Moving on to the next thing, he says she is sus. Now, as you may notice in this image, there are two things that you should point out, or we should point out, right? Number one, what is this image? Well, it's from the Pokemon shop that you go to in Kitakami. It's where you go buy all your resources, your potions, super potions, hyper potions, all the stuff, right? But also, this is where we can see something interesting. I'm going to move my camera down here and right here. You guys see this plushie. Now, why is this plushie here? This plushie has no relationship to anything, but this plushie is Doku Taro. This is a hint to Doku Taro. And he says that she is sus. Well, it actually is true if you think about it. Why is she, this lady, got a Doku Taro plush there? Why would she even have that? Because we've already speculated that maybe all of the Pokemon, I guess, Kitakami community, all the people that live there, through history, have kind of basically had to wear those masks, right? The actual mask that we see in the teal mask. They've had to wear them to basically scare away and push away this Doku Taro creature so it can't take them over, which is why when, you have Ogerpon wearing its masks, it's unable to actually be taken over, right? So that's why those, the Loyal 3, actually go after it to get the mask from it, right? They try to steal the mask under the orders of Doku Taro because Doku Taro is controlling them. But also, in the story of Doku Taro, that we see in specifically, the actual teal mask of, how Ogerpon was hunted by the Loyal 3 and how, basically they went after it. There is a trainer that's leading them all. And how do you usually lead animals? Well, it's on a leash, right? That's how you, pull them around. If you think about what's around the necks of all the Pokemon, they're wearing chains, a leash, a chain, right? Something that's chained them to this Pokemon. But is it possible that there's also a trainer? There's a human needed. Something that was missing when Doku Taro only had the Loyal 3, but now it has Kieran, somebody who is weak of heart and has been basically given fully over to the power of Doku Taro. It's taken control of him and now is controlling him, and with the help of him, he becomes a literal weapon. He becomes a weapon. He gets armed, right? Because of it. He literally turns into something that can cause really, really strange amounts of damage because he basically is that last link that was needed. There was a human that was missing. It had the Loyal 3, but they were not good enough. It also needed a human to control them well enough. So maybe that's the case here. He says she is sus. who knows? I don't know if she actually is or isn't, but the fact that he brings it up is very strange. And I don't know if he's just messing with us, but we'll have to wait and see. Next up, he also posts this right here, and this is from One Piece, if I'm not mistaken. It's a character who literally just basically chops off a part of their face, and I don't really know what to say about this. It's a little weird, but says something similar would happen in Sudachi too. And he says, coherence, all clues come together. And there's these, if I remember correctly, either this is the mint or these are like the mochi thingies, but these are basically like these things that like change your stats and stuff. But is it possible that Doku Taro, maybe its literal body, or maybe if not Doku Taro, then maybe Terapagos, is it possible that from those Pokemon, we'd be able to sort of almost harvest or get specific items from them that will work in a similar way to these right here? Basically, so we will feed something to either Doku Taro or Terapagos and control it. And, you know, that's kind of the way I see it as well, like Lord of the Coast here. That's kind of the way I view it. I don't really know what else to say about this. Mashinu here says she makes dangos from her cheeks. Maybe Doku Taro feeds others its toxic body. Yes, it is possible maybe that this old lady could be working and could also have been controlled by Doku Taro, right? That's why the plushie's there. Maybe she was controlled by Doku Taro all along, and this whole time, the reason Doku Taro was able to influence even Carmen for a little bit was because of the food that she sells to them. Because think about it, like he says here, this character, she literally makes food out of her body. Like she literally makes dangos, right? She makes them out of her cheeks. So maybe Doku Taro is able to do a similar thing, and that old lady basically allows it to spread that to people. Remember in the Tale of Momotaro, he feeds the 3 pet dangos. It's also pictured in the Kitakami signboards. Now I wonder, does Doku Taro have a humanoid form? Or does it control Kieran? I think the most logical thing is it controls Kieran, okay? With the help of the old lady spreading those things out, it was able to reach Kieran. Now it controls him, and he's able to use those to also control his own Pokemon by basically spreading it even further. And I think that's where the whole, like, in the files, there's like a zombie file, zombie human, zombie people mention. So they're gonna probably be like the cases of, I guess, Kieran's gonna be one of them, and whoever else he manages to get control of. I think our rivals, Nimona, Arvin, and Penny might be some of the characters that might be controlled by this thing, and we're gonna have to try to stop them and stuff. It's gonna be interesting to see how it all pans out. And he says, okay, time to bet. Itself, is it itself, item, or grandma's joke? So basically, is this actually Doku Taro? Is this just an item related to it that looks like it or whatever? Or is this the grandma just making a joke in the store? Again, it's very strange. Jan says basically there's nothing to hide. That thing is Momotaro himself. And, well, guess what? Khu actually responded to this one. So we can actually translate this for you guys because looks like Twitter is being a little goofy right now. Can't even get a proper translation. Here we go. So is it possible? Well, let's see what he says. He says... if this can translate, because it just doesn't want to seem to do it. Zundu fake do. I don't know what that exactly means, but we'll have to wait and see. And Grandma is the big boss. That would actually be pretty funny if it was true. But again, is this the actual Doku Taro? Is this an actual Pokemon? Is this the Pokemon? We don't really know. We'll have to wait and see. But we move on to the next thing, though, which again is a bit of a breakdown on, again, this stuff we were talking about. We already spoke about specifically the being fully armed and that whole thing, you know, with Kieran. But there is some other stuff that I still want to bring up as well. For example, Summer Theories brought up an old post. Still intrigued about this leak, which came out around February. Everything from this has turned out to be true. Now we're working on graphic enhancement patches for the new Nintendo Switch models that will be released alongside DLC 2. Hype. So this was a post that was made around the same, around a time around beginning of this year, before we got the DLC announcements, right? And basically this person said, I'm a programmer at the Pokemon outsourcing company. My English is very poor, so I used a machine translation to complete this post. The theme of the DLC is the hidden treasure of Area Zero. 100% correct about that. And Hexagon. We have seen a lot of hexagons. We're going to be going back into Area Zero, where there are a lot of hexagons. Like, for example, Jacques' glasses. It could be that he's the big bad villain. You never know. Pokemon is very sketchy with their story writing lately, and he has hexagon glasses, so it could be the case here too. Version 1.2.0 includes dressable clothes as a reward for DLC purchases. That was true. Will include Umeronami and Tsunoisaha. These are Paradox Suicune and Paradox Virizion. That was also true. They're going to be Water Dragon and Grass Psychic. Also true. A mystery Pokemon of the Green Mask. That was Ogerpon, that was confirmed. Special Terrastall appearances, that was true for Ogerpon, but we don't know about the rest. A third legendary Pokemon is a large blue turtle, that was true too. And then the last part, which is the strangest one, we are working on a graphics enhancement patch for the new Nintendo Switch models that will be released alongside DLC 2. This is the part that's the confusing one. Everything else was true, but the last part is what's weird. We are working on a graphics enhancement patch for the new Nintendo Switch models that will be released alongside DLC 2. Now, the Switch models that might be released with DLC 2, what maybe he's talking about here doesn't necessarily mean a brand new Switch. Doesn't mean a Switch 2 or a brand new console. Maybe a specific model that's going to be released, like a specific Switch, OLED that's going to have like Scarlet and Violet DLC artwork on it. Like that could be the Switch models that he's referring to. It doesn't have to necessarily be the Switch 2, right? Keep that in mind. And he says they'll be released alongside DLC 2. So that could mean that maybe there's going to be a graphics enhancement patch, like something that's going to boost the graphics when we get DLC 2 released. Like maybe there will be an actual bump in the, how the game actually looks. Again, we don't know. There's been a lot of bugs and stuff in Pokemon lately, so anything is possible, but I do think it's worthwhile bringing up nonetheless. I just think it's worthwhile to bring up and talk about. So now we're going to go back really quickly and talk about some of the stuff that came to us from, of course, the data mines. And this is some stuff that, we kind of forgot to talk about. But basically, in there is a book in here, the Scarlet and Violet book. And there is a image that was really very strange. Area 0 cartograph. Ledges form a spiral down the inner walls of Area 0, offering a path of descent. Vegetation and sources of water are here as well. Legends tell that precious stones or wondrous fruits have long slept in Area 0's depths, protected by some manner of guardian, possibly, again, Terrapagos. Then we also have a group of greedy Pokemon soon made their way to the land of Kitakami. Here in the top right, we have, you guys can't see it, but in the top right where my camera is, you guys can actually see the Doku Taro Pokemon. The legendary treasure. Countless days into our descent, we reached at last the very depths of the Great Crater. There we found a cave with formations of gemstone, shining blindingly bright as far as we could see. Perhaps the strange light itself is the guardian said to watch over treasure deep within the crater. So I think what's going to happen here is, throughout the main story of Pokemon the Indigo Disc, we're not going to see Terrapagos. We're only going to interact with Terrapagos as a Pokemon when we go into the second path of Area 0. We're going to go back in there. We already know this. I want to show you this to you guys. I'm going to look up the most recent Pokemon Scarlet and Violet trailer. We're just going to look up Pokemon official channel. And I want to break this down because I don't feel like I've seen enough people talk about this, which I think is really unfortunate because I do think it's a really important thing to bring up. But let's look up and see if we can find the actual trailer, because it has been a while now since those came out. I mean, we got to go back quite a long time to find it. But let's see if we can actually find the original trailer here. So I think it might be this one. It was over a month ago. So let's see if we can bring this over and talk about what's on the end here. So if you go in here, you guys can watch at the end. Let me see if I can find the exact point where this shows up. Yeah, here we go. So at the end here, there are a few images that nobody really speaks much about. So here, we have what seems to be, I forget his name, but this is like the character who we know wrote the book, the Scarlet and Violet books, right? He wrote the actual books that we use to discover all this stuff. So the pages you see right here, they're written by this fella. Now, I forget his name off the top of my head. I'm sorry, you guys can mention him in the comment section down below for context, but he basically is the person we're seeing right here. We see him here with a bunch of companions. They've got some Pokemon with them, a Luxio, as well as a Curlia, I think. And I don't know what else is in here. We continue down this image, and there's multiple of them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people, right? There's 7 people in this image. You got Luxio. Actually, there's 8 people. There's another person at the bottom with a hat. And we can see them walking down into Area 0. The next image shows that shape that we've seen before. Remember, this shape is the same shape that's actually on the Scarlet and Violet logo. This shape is on there too. We see them actually taking images of it, and then they find the bottom crater. This is the image we see right here, the legendary treasure. As they continue down, though, here we get to see the image of him. So this is the man we were just talking about, right? And we're going to stop on that image of him, because it's him with a Cyclizar, right? It's him, like, just chilling there with his Cyclizar, and we're going to see if we can slow down this image real quick to make sure we can see everything at the right pace. So, what we see is him with his Cyclizar, and there's not really much more context to that. We just know that he went down into Area Zero, and basically when he came back and told his stories of what he saw, people didn't believe him. People called him crazy, okay? People basically viewed his tellings almost like fantasies, like a fantasy novel that he wrote. But the book of Scarlet and Violet is actually what he saw down there. It's what he genuinely experienced. We see him with his Cyclizar. Interesting that he uses Cyclizar, a Pokemon which is now native to, Paldea, but also Koraidon and Miraidon are the paradoxes of Cyclizar. Keep that in mind. One is a future version, one is a past version of it, or a paradox version of that. We see this shape here. We've seen this shape in other places, I think, again, in the logo for Scarlet and Violet. We see what seems to be a human in the bottom left here, looking at this. It's like some sort of rock that's about, like, that's kind of fallen over with these markings on it. So who created the markings is the question, right? We see some calculations. We see, again, some hexagons right here. You guys can see a hexagon shape. Maybe that's where Terrapagos is. They got the same shape as the Terrapagos necklace. So that's probably what that is. We see a man, a old man, and, of course, the main character we're talking about, the man who, like, wrote the book. But we also see this round fella, to say the least, and he's pretty bald. So we see him, and we don't really know who this guy is. He could be related to someone we know from the main games. Maybe it's somebody we're going to be seeing in Pokemon, the Indigo disc. I don't know, but we don't really know much about this dude. So again, if we do know anything about him, and if you guys have any theories, let me know in the comment section down below. And then, of course, we see the basically interpretation of Terrapagos, which is this giant orb. So that's basically what that's all about. Now, I don't see really many people talk about that one section in the video, because after that, they show Area Zero, right? They show it right here. They show, like, the camera panning down into it as basically confirming we're going back down there. There's something we've missed, and we need to go back in there. So what are we talking about here when we see this post? Well, it says, remember the peach on the cartograph page of the Scarlet and Violet book? Well, the page description provides more insight to theory craft about Doku Taro. Here it says, precious stones or wondrous fruits have long slept in Area Zero. This makes it sound like both the stones and fruits are sentient. They're sleeping. This could point to the sentient stones, the crystals, being Glimmora, which, yes, Glimmora is basically that, and the sentient fruit being Doku Taro. Because, yes, Glimmora is one of those weird Pokemon that can only be found in Area Zero, and nobody talks about it much. It's just kind of forgotten. It's just a Pokemon. The only person who uses it is Geta, who's like one of the few people that has access to Area Zero, but nobody else uses it. It's very strange. But why use the word or? Well, when we go down to Area Zero, we only see Terra Crystals everywhere, or no fruit or even Herba Mystica anywhere. However, in the Scarlet and Violet book, we see a page dedicated to Herba Mystica, and the only fruit we see on the cartographer page is a peach. And what is Doku Taro based on? Well, it's based on Momotaro, the Peach Boy. Again, it's all got to do with peaches. Peaches, 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 peaches. We don't know exactly what happened, but when Heath and his team went into the depths of Area Zero, some of them must have seen stones, and others must have seen some elusive peaches, Doku Taro, maybe in visions. We do know from the True Tale of Ogerpon and the Loyal 3 that all of them, including Doku Taro, didn't come from Kitakami but are from other regions. So since there's seemingly no fruit, when we return to Area Zero, Doku Taro must have left to go to Kitakami. But why does it leave for those masks when it was living in a peaceful place full of Terra Crystals? Maybe it's always been a malevolent, greedy little creature in Area Zero trying to steal the treasure. That's why Terrapagos is there as its guardian, or maybe Doku Taro and maybe a special Glimmora are part of the hidden treasure, and somehow someone took a piece of the treasure and Doku Taro wants it back. Maybe the crystals that the man of the Ogerpon brought to Kitakami were a small piece of the hidden treasure, different from normal Terra Gems, and Doku Taro went to get this piece of the treasure from them. Lots of mysteries still left to be uncovered, but seems like Doku Taro could have been a wondrous fruit from Area Zero. Again, very strange, but an interesting theory. Then, of course, there's the final part here where he wants to talk about stuff, so let's go through that. Final part, I was partly wrong on this point below. Kieran does have the teal mask in his possession when he strikes the grave of the Loyal 3. This could change everything related to the theory that Doku Taro itself through Kieran revived them. Instead, it might have been the power of the Terra Gems in the teal mask that through Kieran's or Doku Taro's emotions or desires resurrected Loyal 3. This scenario is much more likely than the idea that Doku Taro possessed or influenced Kieran and revived the Loyal 3 with its own powers. This is because the crystal pool and the random piece of info that says the pool has powers to meet the dead. This is a piece of info we learn about right before this whole scenario with the Loyal 3 plays out. And we know that the original Taro gems in the teal mask were from this pool. The Loyal 3 were dead, but through either the wish-granting powers or the afterlife-related powers of the Taro gems in the teal mask, they were resurrected. It would also be really silly for this meeting the dead line to just be a throwaway line. This line is even pointed out to us twice. Not only that, but it's also heavily implied that the crystal pool is an important location to the plot of this DLC since it's part of the DLC logo, which is true because you guys know this is in the DLC logo. You guys can see the shape of the lake is literally in the logo. So, let's see, where were we? So, there's still many scenarios of how this could have happened. It could have simply just been a negative emotions of Kieran that somehow revived them, but most likely is the actual power came from the gems, maybe through his emotions, the gems revived them. Or maybe it was Kieran's subconscious desire through the gems that he wanted to bring the Loyal 3 back to get revenge on us and Ogrepon. This all would be also strongly related back to the theory of the treasure of Area Zero being able to turn imagination or desire into reality. And of course, it could have still been Doku Taro that influenced or tricked or made a deal with Kieran to get the mask and bring it to the Loyal 3 memorial so that Doku Taro could use the Taro Gem's power to revive the Loyal 3. And this way, both him and Kieran would get revenge on us and Ogrepon. However, after finishing the Teal Mask storyline and seeing that Kieran was just really upset and selfish, that there's a very slim chance that he was ever possessed by or was being made crazy and puppeted by Doku Taro itself. However, I do think he legit is. Instead, it was probably the power of the titular Teal Mask. There could still be some other Doku Taro shenanigans going on here, though. I don't know if Doku Taro is the one to revive them, but I do think it influenced it, and I do think it is controlling Kieran. I think it has basically gotten the control and its claws into him. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be summarizing it up for today's video. Thank you all for watching. I want to see you guys in the next one, and thank you for being here. If you guys have any thoughts or opinions, comments, anything like that, let me know in the comment section down below. Anything you think about any of these theories, any of these posts, any of these rumors, let me know, and thank you all for watching. I love you all. See you next one.